with you guys using this piece. I've been told that this is a display for vintage spoons. I got it at Goodwill for $5.99. When I saw it, I automatically thought of a really cool sign I've been wanting to replicate from Nora Murphy's book called Country House Style. It's in the very beginning, I'll show you a picture, but this shape instantly reminded me of it. It's a little squattier, but I'm gonna be taking this old display stand and turning it into a replication, really cool old vintage sign. First thing I need to do is to get these little notch display holders off. It comes up pretty easily. I was testing it, as you can kind of see on the side here. I just am wedging underneath this little wood part my screwdriver, and then I'm going to be prying it up. It'll probably leave a little bit of a rough edge. That's okay. I don't want this sign to be perfectly smooth actually, so the rougher the better. But if there's any parts that stick up, I'll just take my sandpaper to it and smooth it down. Started, there's a few steps I need to take before I put this frame and adhere it to my little plaque here. So I really want this to have a chippy, old, authentic look. So I'm going to use milk paint for that. And if you're not familiar with milk paint, it is such a great paint for making things look really old and patinaed, because the paint will literally chip off and flake just like those old original pieces that you and I love. So first thing first, I'm going to first paint this entire board with white milk paint. Then I'm going to remove all the pictures and the backing, so I just am left with the frame. And I actually need to cut the frame because it's a little bit big. I'll show you that in a second. But once I cut it to size, I'm going to milk paint the frame as well. Then once that's done, I'm going to place it on my plaque here. Then I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to trace the inside of the plaque, because it's going to be really hard to stencil my sign on once this frame is adhered. So I want to know kind of the spatial parameters of what I'm working with before I actually adhere my frame on. So tracing the inside of my frame area before adhering it will give me that visual reference. I can stencil on my sign, then I can kind of layer everything together, glue it down, do any touch-up painting, and then I'm going to take my sandpaper and my scraper and do any more roughing up of the edges, the antiquing effects, anything to make it look old and kind of rustic. Okay, so as you can see, the frame is a little bit tall for my plaque, but the width is just perfect. So it's an easy fix. All I'm going to do is dismantle the frame and all of the sides at the joints. Truthfully, actually, I just need to do this joint and this joint so I can take off the top. Then I'm going to cut the frame down here. I'm going to so that I can then join this top piece back up, and it's going to run perfectly along the width of my frame. Is I kind of just placed my dismantled frame on my board here, and I'm just gonna mark one side roughly where it needs to go so that I can take it apart, make a cut on one side, and then I'll just match it over here. So grab my pencil. From the look of it, kind of want it to go about to here. Doesn't have to be perfect as long as it's even when I finish it, because then I can just center it up when I'm done. So right about there. Alright guys, so I'm going to show you a little trick that I'm going to do, because pulling this frame apart is actually quite difficult. And I actually saw a DIYer do this when he was taking apart, trying to pry off the corner pieces of crown molding. But it's very similar because it kind of has this miter joint that's really difficult to get into. So what he did is he took his Ryobi tool, and in his crown molding he cut just, down below where the corner is, so he could remove a little chunk there and then get in to the corner miter piece from this way to pull it out. And I'm gonna take that exact same approach with this frame. So I'm just gonna go get my saw. I'm gonna cut a little chunk out, and then that way I can pry apart the mitered corner and get this down to the size I need.
Next, I'm going to mix up my favorite milk paint and go ahead and apply the first coat. Okay, now I'm going to show you a little trick that I use to get that kind of cracking and crazing effect. Before the milk paint dries, I like to take my hairdryer, put on a high heat setting, and apply the high heat air to the milk paint, and it gives it a really beautiful patina and cracking. Next, go ahead and grab your favorite scraping tool. It could be a credit card, a paint scraper, or in this case, a screwdriver, and you can start scraping away and chipping off the little flakes of paint to give it that authentic chippy look. Next, I'm using the exact same paint method and drying method as I did on the main plaque on the frame. I'm going to get this all painted, dried, and then I'll get to adhering it to the plaque. Once this is done, I'm going to prepare the sign for the stenciling part, and after the stenciling, I'm going to adhere the frame back onto the sign. Next was the tedious part. I used my little mirror pocket projector to trace the outline of the letters. It was tedious, but well worth the look. I really want this sign to have the appearance of a hand-painted quality of the old New England signs, and well, I guess it has just that because it is exactly hand-painted. I'm using a tester model paint, I'll link down below, for the larger letters. Then for the smaller letters, I'm actually using a little calligraphy pen. It was just much easier to get into those little letters and stay within the lines. Next, I mixed up a little bit of light gray milk paint, and I'm just going to use a dry brush technique to add a little depth and dimension and kind of grittiness and oldness to the sign. And for the final step, I'm going to use an oil wax mixture from Old Barn Milk Paint to seal in all the chips and the paint and give it its finished look.